Hello and welcome. You're watching FII. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Now, the pandemic has made our health a drawing room conversation now. Everybody is intrigued about keeping themselves fit. We want to know about everything that's going on with our body because really moving forward, as many studies are saying, these viruses attacks, these pandemics will continue. So the only thing that you can really keep in check is your own personal health. And contributing to that is a whole bouquet of vitamins. One king of vitamin is really vitamin D. That is something that we are going to deep dive into today. And we'll talk about what deficiency of this vitamin can do to you and what excess of this vitamin can also do to you. Let's get started by telling you some basics about vitamin D first. Now, it is an extremely important vitamin that has powerful effects on several systems throughout your body. And unlike other vitamins, D functions like a hormone. Every single cell in your body has a receptor for it. Your body makes it from cholesterol when your skin is exposed to sun, and it is also found in certain foods such as fatty fish, fortified dairy products, etc. Though it is very difficult to get enough of this vitamin from diet alone. For most adults, the units that you need to be watching out for when you get your vitamin D tested, and now there is a new test for that, we'll tell you about that on the course of the program as well, but it should be between 600 to 800 units, or as recommended by a doctor. Some say it should actually be much higher. But just imagine how big the vitamin D deficiency really is. Well, across the world, at least 1 billion people are believed to have low levels of vitamin D, and in India alone, numbers are shocking. Let's first get started with that explainer where we tell you why is it that vitamin D matters and why you should be bothered by it. Essentially, it helps to regulate the amount of calcium and the phosphate in your body. These nutrients are needed to keep your bones, teeth, muscles healthy. The fallout of the deficiency means that you will have increased risk of osteoporosis, that's bones becoming weak and brittle. It is risk factor for prostate cancer, for rickets. It has impacts on bone development in kids, especially if it is found very dangerous when that happens especially in younger kids. And severity, well, those linked with vitamin D are also associated. Remember COVID-19? Where everybody said that along with all the functions and all the vitamins and multivitamins that you're actually having, vitamin D was said to be key because that is a key thing, a king that helps in your immune function as well. But let's tell you now what low levels of vitamin D can actually do to your body. And it is not just physical. Depression said to be a major outcome of that. Seasonal affective disorder is an outcome of that. Schizophrenia in adults also an outcome of vitamin D. In fact, depression-like symptoms like mood swings, fatigue, anxiety, all if you get yourself checked, if you've been feeling very anxious of late, then it's very important to get your vitamin D tested and have a doctor look at your report as well. But let's tell you how deep the problem really is. How many people does it actually impact? Around 490 million individuals in India alone have this deficiency. We did a survey of some urban cities in Delhi. 88% of Delhiites suffer from deficiency of D. Urban India has huge vitamin D deficiency as well. Also, risk factors that are associated with vitamin D and who are the people who are more likely to get this deficiency. Let's talk about that. People with dark skin, older people, being overweight or obese, not eating much fish or dairy products, living far away from the equator, areas where there is little sun around the year. Always using sunscreen when going out. Well, that's a key thing we'll discuss with the panel as well. However, using sunscreen is important in helping preventing sun damage and effects it can have, including skin cancer. Staying indoors, you're more likely to have deficiency. Having chronic kidney disease, a liver disease can also make you a very good candidate for actually having a vitamin D deficiency. A gastric bypass, if you've had a surgery there, you are likely to have a deficiency, and certain medicines that impact vitamin D metabolism as well. But what should you do then? Well, food that you can have to sort of better your D levels, it is milk, it is oily fish, salmon, etc. It is cheese, it is red meat, it is mushrooms, egg yolks and yogurt. So all these things that are generally considered to be non-keto, generally considered to be also very fattening, all of these give you very good quantity of vitamin D. So do not cut in on that. And if you are already on a diet which is depriving you of these, do get your vitamin D levels checked. But what exactly is the association of vitamin D, like I said, with sunscreen, with obesity, with COVID vaccines, as some have said as well? That's something that we'll take up with our panel. Let's go straight to them. Joining us on the program today is Dr. Shweta Khandelwal. She'll back with us for all these fun facts that we need to know in a very, very nice and curious way that she always brings for our FII viewers. Also with us is Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, Medical Director, Chief of Surgery in HOD Orthopedics in Mumbai-based PD Hinduja, National and MRC. We have Dr. Vikram with us. He's a consultant for knee surgery at the Max Hospital, Saket, and Dr. Arvind Kumar as well, Chairman, Institute of Chest Surgery, Medanta Hospital. Let me begin with Dr. Vikram. Dr. Vikram, take us through firstly, how alarming is the vitamin D problem? We've looked at numbers, they look very, very scary. But if somebody is getting their D checked, what should be the range that they're looking at, and at what stage do they need an intervention?
Thanks, Sonal. So vitamin D deficiency has been a pandemic a lot longer before COVID-19 came in. It was just that it wasn't publicized as much. I think with the advent of COVID-19, what's actually happened is we've largely stayed indoors. And because of that, the largest source of vitamin D is the sun and UVB radiations in the sun. And unless we spend adequate time in the sunlight, we're not going to get enough of it. And we've become more and more couch potatoes even before COVID-19 struck. And thanks to COVID-19, we've all largely remained indoors and have got even more deficient in this particular vitamin. But it is really critical to measure the levels of vitamin D in your body, though your results show that almost 90% of us are deficient, and which I largely agree with. Vitamin D in excess is also not good for the system. So before starting any sort of therapeutic treatment, it is essential that you do your tests of vitamin D, and vitamin D levels are measured in different labs with different standards, mainly nanograms per ml. And depending on the standard, if you belong to the deficiency range, it has to be started in a therapeutic dose, which is more than the recommended dietary allowance. So we need to have a distinction between these two things. Recommended dietary allowance is what you eat on a regular basis. That is, you have a healthy, balanced diet, you eat X amount of vitamin in your food. But when you are deficient, the amount of vitamin D you require to get your blood levels to a normal level is a lot higher than what you would normally eat on a daily basis. And if you were to binge on it with a deficiency, it could be detrimental to your health. Hence, getting a test done, which is easily available in most labs, is important before any sort of treatment is started.
Right. So what Dr. Vikram, you're saying is there aren't enough dietary supplements for D. That's number one. And second, what you're saying is that pandemic could have actually increased the problem because of staying indoors. Two very important points over there. Let me go to Dr. Arvind Kumar. Dr. Kumar, we've seen how the deficiencies change between kids and adults. With adults, we've seen bones getting more brittle and older people getting more delicate in that stage. But when it comes to kids, I understand the problem is more severe.
Yeah, so the kids' bones are in a developing state. So when there is deficiency, it not only affects the development of bone, but it also makes them more susceptible to all kinds of problems. And their development ultimately gets affected, and they have a disease called rickets. Whereas in adults, by the time we reach adulthood, our skeletal system has developed. And if you have deficiency developing after that, so bone metabolism gets. So bone is not that once the cement is deposited, it's deposited there forever. These are in a constant state of resorption and then re-laying down on the floor. So this process of resorption and re-laying down of the bone goes on. And when you have deficiency, then the process of this repair is impaired. and you have what is called osteoporosis, which basically in layman's term would mean soft bones. And when you have soft bones, you not only become more prone to fractures and other problems, but most importantly, you start having severe bone pains and all other changes which you so elegantly described in your initial presentation. And that's how a large number of people are present. And my important message I want to give is that this deficiency actually is far more prevalent than is actually perceived, diagnosed or treated. It's a grossly underdiagnosed disease.
Right. I think that's the endeavor of this program as well, to try and get the education and get people to open up their eyes to this very key king of vitamins really, and how essential it really is. Let me go to Dr. Sanjay next. Dr. Sanjay, while Dr. Agrawal has talked about the physical aspect of vitamin D, the other very important aspect is the mental aspect as well. We've seen mood swings, we've seen how in depression, vitamin D also playing a very crucial role. Talk to us a little about that, please.
Sonal, effectively, vitamin D is really like a hormone. The interesting thing about this particular vitamin, which is vital and hormonal, is that it affects not only the bones that we've been talking about, clearly it affects cells, and it in fact also affects your depression, mood swings, the quality of sleep, your muscles, whether your muscles are fatigued, tired, and so on. So you have one group of vitamins. These vitamins are so vital, and the interesting thing is that it can even be created by your exposure to sunlight. So if you stand with your clothes in sunlight, you create no vitamin D. And all of us, we shade ourselves when we are walking around because you can get a headache, etc. So when you talk of acquiring vitamin D naturally, you need sunlight, UVB, that Vikram just talked about. However, in case you don't do that, not only will your bones get involved, it has been shown in studies that it not only helps hair growth, it also creates hair follicles, it boosts energy, and if you don't have energy, you can get totally depressed. And surprisingly, it helps weight loss.
Oh, really?
So if you are deficient in vitamin D,
Yeah.
it seems to be the magic miracle vitamin that all individuals need. And
Well,
if
you've
you
got
have
everybody's
enough of
attention on that, I can definitely guarantee you. But
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question to this, Dr. Sanjay. The thing is, I've been vitamin D deficient for a very long time, and I remember I was deficient when I was reporting. I used to be out in the sun for long hours, and even then I was surprised on how even then my long hours of exposure in the sun, I was vitamin D deficient, and now I feel like it's happening with so many more people. So are there
clearly-
specific hours in the day when it is advised that you take sunlight, and how exactly does that work?
All right. So good question and a good observation. The ultraviolet B is there in the mornings, and so if you expose yourself in the mornings, you're more likely to acquire vitamin D being generated under your skin. The interesting thing in places in India particularly, the dust bowl of the world, is that because of the pollution, a lot of this ultraviolet light B, the B range, does not even affect you. So though you may get darker, you may get hot, the UVB, the ultraviolet B, will not be able to stimulate the epidermis layer of your skin, and hence you will not generate vitamin D. And a large number of us, we are in air-conditioned environments. We go home, we put the air conditioner on. We sit in the car, we put the windows up and the air conditioner is on. So you really need to be sunbathing if you want to get enough vitamin D. A lot of studies have been equivocal about the number of hours of exposure. They have been as small as half an hour a day to exposed parts. It has been as much as 3 hours a day. But clearly, none of us have time to be standing in the sun and working and sweating. So there is no harm in getting, Shweta tell us, perhaps, what kind of food supplements or what kind of vitamin supplements which are very cheap, effective, and great to be taken on a daily basis.
Right. In fact, let me bring in Shweta at this point. Shweta, but also while you talk about that, talk to us about this entire thing about sunscreen actually blocking vitamin D. Is that true?
That's true, Sonal. Thank you for that question. See, I would just like to pick up from Dr. Sanjay's comment regarding the depression and mental health issue. There's an important area to be very cognizant of here. We have seen studies where mothers, if they are deficient in vitamin D while giving birth, so, the children also automatically get vitamin D deficiency. And these children later on, when they grow up as adults, were actually found to be developing depression much more than those whose plasma levels are opposite. So there's a life course approach to it. There's a whole series of research telling you that there is these levels of vitamin D which should be maintained throughout the life course and not just in specific periods. And therefore, when we are talking about sunscreens or we are talking about exposure, what I understand from the Cochrane reviews or at least good quality studies is that exposure between from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and especially the noon time period is critical for UVB. But like Dr. Sanjay also pointed out, there are deficiencies in our absorption rates because of pollution, high levels of pollution, and that needs to be taken care of as well. So in addition to that pollution, if you also put sunscreen, you're actually not going to do the service. It's like sitting in a place with all the healthy options, but you're not eating anything. You're just smelling and enjoying. So you have to consume it, and for that consumption to happen, go and actually dirty your hands, right? So similarly, you don't have the sunscreen on to be able to do that. That's one. The second thing regarding supplements. Now, I have a little different opinion here because most of the studies actually show that there is not enough evidence to say that supplementation in particular helps. There are some small studies or RCTs, like randomized control trials, which are supposedly the higher end, like good quality studies again. They have shown that vitamin D deficiency is definitely bad and it should be taken care of. But giving supplements, daily supplements or things like those is not actually very helpful.
What are you saying here? What's the solution? Supplements will not work. There are not enough dietary supplements either. So how does one tackle vitamin D problem? So
we have to do a combination, a multi-pronged strategy, Sonal. That's what I'm saying. Supplements will help in acute deficiency. So if you get sometimes the vitamin deficiency is there, sometimes certain supplements are helpful. The second thing which I'm talking about is fortified cereals. So there is a whole push from FSSAI's end to actually produce fortification and in normal day consumption items like milk, like oil, like atta. So therefore, those kind of things will go a long way in helping. And the third is sun exposure, which 40% of your skin should be exposed, by the way. So you have to use multi-pronged strategies. One thing will not lead to complete. And in diet, please remember a holistic, balanced diet is important rather than just focusing on one fraction or one concoction.
All right. I'm running out of time, so I have to leave it there for the moment. But thank you all for bringing various aspects of this, from weight loss to sunscreen. We've covered a whole host of issues over here when it comes to vitamin D. And here's hoping, get yourself tested actually, and only, take supplements or make changes to your diet after your doctor recommends. We're going to slip into a break. On the other side, our special segment, Vaccinate India. Time for a special campaign now, Vaccinate India, in partnership with Google, where we are discussing questions that you often have about vaccines, about antibodies, about COVID in general. And joining us and taking your questions today is Dr. Arvind Kumar. Thank you so much for your time, sir. The first question that our viewers have actually sent us is, will you test positive for antibodies after your COVID-19 vaccination, and how soon does that really happen?
So yes, you do test positive for antibodies after vaccination, and typically when you take the first dose, the antibodies start appearing around 2 weeks. It takes minimum 2 weeks for the antibodies to appear, and they start appearing after that. And The full levels are only achieved after you have received the second dose also, after an appropriate time gap as per the recommendation, which varies from vaccine to vaccine.
Right. And a lot of people, doctor, have this habit of getting their antibodies tested. They get it after they get the infection or after the first vaccine. Now a lot of people going in for their second dose, those below 65 actually, and they're again trying to get their antibodies tested. How much do you think we can rely upon the number of antibodies really?
So I want to convey this very unambiguous message that this antibody testing is one of the most misused tests in the country today. You know, this antibody is a combination of various kinds of antibody. What actually matters is the anti-spike protein antibody and not the total antibody. And that very, very few labs are monitoring that, are measuring that. Secondly, the measurement of this antibody is a very, very sensitive and a specialized test. And I don't think the kind of availability across the country is there. I don't think that standardization can happen. And secondly, I also want to convey that when it comes to immunity against COVID, it's not just the antibodies which act. Whether you get COVID infection or you get COVID vaccination, there is also a parallel development called cell-mediated immunity, which also plays an important role. So how susceptible you are or not only depends on your antibody levels, but it also depends on how much is your cell-mediated immunity, for which today there is no measure, there is no test to measure it. And therefore, only getting your total antibody tested, that too without knowing the standardization of the procedure,
gives you a false sense of protection which we should be staying away from.
Sometimes false sense of protection and sometimes false sense of fear, because if you are reported as low but actually total is low, your anti-spike protein is high, you may still be well protected, especially if your cell mediated is good. So today there is no role for antibody testing. I am in a major hospital, I have never got my antibody tested till date.
All right. In fact, it is a very India-only phenomena. People outside of the country are not even getting their antibodies tested. In India, for some reason, we seem to be obsessed with trying to get a grip on the number. It's almost like a test on how many antibodies do you really have.
It's also become one of the things to compare. How much is your antibody? How much is my antibody?
So stay away from that really. That is not the only marker that tells you whether or not you have antibodies. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for your time, doctor, and taking us through such vital information.